Welcome back to Low Stress Math with Mrs. Bono. We are on Chapter 1, Linear Equations. There are 12 lessons in this chapter. The titles are right there. And we're doing Lesson 1. So here we go. Lesson 1, solve 1 and 2-step equations. Expressions and equations refer to two different entities in mathematics. If you are dealing with an equal sign, you are dealing with an equation. So an expression is 2x plus 5. An equation is 2x plus 5 equals 13. Parts of an equation. So you've gone over these before in 7th grade and you don't remember them, and that's okay. It's going to be part of Friday's quiz, however, to be able to identify the parts of an expression and an equation. So, coefficient, that is the number you're multiplying times the variable. The variable is the letter, the unknown quantity. An operator is addition or subtraction, multiplication, division. Those are all different operations, and the operator tells you which operation you're going to use. And constants are numbers that do not have variables attached to them. And usually there's one or two constants. So, down here, expressions. All of this is part of Friday's quiz. Yes, it's a lot of vocabulary. You can do this. Expression is numbers, symbols, and operations grouped together to show the value of something. An equation is a mathematical sentence where there are two expressions set equal to each other. A term is a number, a variable, or a product of numbers and variables. So here there are two terms. Well, let's look at the expression. In this expression there are two terms. One term has a variable and one term does not. A coefficient is a number used to multiply a variable. Variables with no numbers have a coefficient of 1. For example, x is really 1x. There's some invisible math involved. We'll get into that more later. All right, and now the first actual work. Inverse are opposite operations. So we're looking at the inverse or opposite operations. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. But the reverse is also true. The inverse of subtraction is addition. So I'm just going to put an arrow on that side too. The inverse of multiplication is division. But inverse is also true. The inverse of division is multiplication. So those arrows should be going both ways. When solving an equation, the goal is to get the variable by itself. And you've heard the term isolate the variable. That's just a way to get the variable by itself. So, for example, we're going to look at these equations. The inverse operation is always on the same side of the equal sign as the variable. So the variable on this is to the left, and the operation is subtraction. The inverse operation would be to add 5 to both sides. Because whatever you do to one side of an equation, you have to do to the other side. The goal is to isolate the variable, but keep the equation balanced. So 9x equals 18. That's really saying 9 times x equals 18. The inverse operation would be to divide both sides by 9. Okay, this is division. The opposite of division, multiplication. The inverse operation would be multiply both sides by by negative 5. out of space here, -5. All right. Oh, look at this. It says x squared. The inverse of x squared is to do a square root. To undo a square, you do a square root. So the inverse operation would be to square root both sides. Here, the operation is addition. -3 is the number, but the inverse would be to subtract -3 from both sides. Notice that every single phrase has both sides involved. Every answer is on both sides. You have to do the inverse to everything. All right, so step 1, identify the variable. There it is, x. Identify the operation and perform the inverse. Well, the operation is add 5, so the inverse would be subtract 5 from both sides and get x equals 30. Check. Evaluate the original equation by substituting the value you found for the variable. So here's my check. X plus 5 equals 35. I'm going to substitute my answer, 30, for x. And I'm going to add that to 5 and see if it's equal to 35. And happily, it really is. 30 plus 5 is 35. That's equal to 35, and it checks. In the beginning, you will know the answers to the equations, and you will know that the checks will work. But as we go along and these questions get more difficult, checks become more and more important, because you're not going to know whether you actually got the right answer or not until you check your work. And if you do a check and your answer is wrong, check the check first, then go back and check your problem. You probably did the check wrong before you did the problem wrong. But let's go on to the next page. Here's some practice problems. Solve the following equations and check your solution. So, let's start with the first one. 26 equals x plus 12. I like the x to be on the left, so I'm going to rewrite that as x plus 12 equals 26. Because both sides of the equal sign are equal to each other, it doesn't matter which one's on the left. So I want to make my life a little bit easier. The inverse of add 12 is subtract 12, so I subtracted 12 from both sides. I get x equals 12. And I'm going to box my answer because it makes me happy to do that. When you check something, you rewrite the problem. X plus 12 equals 24. You substitute the answer you got for x. So 12 plus 12 equals 24. 12 plus 12 is 24. That equals 24. And you checked it. Yay! This next one, -8y. That's multiplication. So rewrite the problem. -8y equals 56. The opposite of multiply by -8 is to divide both sides by -8. I like to write my inverses in red so that you can see them more easily. You don't need to do that, but it does make it easier if you want to do that. -8 divided by -8 is +1. So I have 1y here. And then 56 divided by -8. The signs are different, so the answer is negative. 56 divided by 8 is 7. Box it, because that's my answer. Rewrite the problem. -8y equals 56. -8. And now, because it's multiplication, I'm going to use parentheses around my -7 to show that I'm multiplying. Equals 56. -8 times -7 is +56. That equals 56. And that answer checks. For the next one, oh look, it's backwards again. Patuk. Well, I am going to rewrite it the right way. I'm going to put the y on the left because it makes me happy, equals -7. All right. The inverse of divide by 7 is multiply by 7. A number next to a letter is multiply, so I don't need parentheses on that side. But I'm going to need parentheses on this side. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. Y equals negative times positive is negative. 7 times 3 is 21. Put a box around it because it's beautiful. And rewrite the original problem. -7 equals y divided by 3. -7 equals where the y was. -21 divided by 3. Yay! -7 equals -7. It checks. All right, your turn. Check point 1. Turn off the video and check yourself. Try those problems and check your answers. I'll see you in a minute. I really hope you checked your work. So let's go back and do the problems. Remember, I'm going to rewrite them to make them easier for me, putting the x on the left. So -20 plus x equals -11. If all you do is write down answers, all you're going to get is 0 for credit. You have to show your work. We're not answering the problems. We're learning how to do algebra. There's a difference. All right, the inverse of adding -20 is subtracting -20. Subtracting -20. No, -20 minus -20. Keep change. -20 plus 20 is 0. Bring down the x. Keep change. -11 plus 20 is 9. Signs are different. You subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. All right, rewrite the original problem. -11 equals -20 plus x. -11 equals -20 plus 9. The signs are different, so you subtract. 20 minus 9 is 11. 20 is larger, so it's -11. Yay, it checked. All right, the next one, it's multiplication. -8m equals -24. The opposite of multiply by 8 is divide by 8. It's a negative, -8. Divide by -8. -8 divided by -8 is 1. Bring down the m. Negative divided by negative is +3. Box it because it's beautiful. I didn't put a box around that. I put boxes around things. Now to check it, I rewrite the problem. -8m equals -24. I'm going to, in parentheses, put the +3 to show that I'm multiplying. I wasn't multiplying up here, that's why there's no parentheses. Equals -24. Negative times positive is -24 equals -24, and it checks. The last problem. Oh, look, the x is on the right side. That's very helpful, except now there's decimals. Oh, well. X minus 6 3/10 equals 9 1/10. The inverse of subtract 6 3/10 is to add 6 3/10. So to both sides, I'm adding 6 3/10. Line up your decimal points. It makes your life easier. This will cancel. X equals 1 plus 3 is 4. Decimal stays in the same place. 9 plus 6 is 15. So my answer should be 15 and 4/10. Rewrite the problem. X minus 6 3/10 equals 9 and 1/10. Instead of the x, 15 and 4/10 minus 6 3/10 equals 9 and 1/10. 15 minus 6 is 9. 4 minus 3 is 1. I lost a decimal point there. Equals 9 and 1/10. It checks. Use a calculator if you're not sure of yourself with decimals and fractions. It's okay. No judgment. Use the tools that you have access to. All right. The next part of the problem, of the lesson. Here we go. two-step equations. You did these last year, so don't look scared. 1, identify the variable and then move the constant to the using inverse operations. The constant is 5. So there's 2 operations here. There's multiplication and there's addition. So first I move the constant, minus 5 from both sides. All right. Now I get 3x equals 30. Okay, divide both sides by the coefficient. 3 is the coefficient. All right, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So I get x equals 10 as my answer. Go back and substitute. Check the original answer. So here's my original problem. 3x plus 5 equals 35. 3 parentheses around the 10 to show that I'm multiplying. Plus 5 equals 35. 3 times 10 is 30. Plus 5 is 35. I'm going to make my 5s look more 5-y. 30 plus 5 is 35. That equals 35. And it checks. Yay! All right. We are doing the inverse operation, so we're going to also do the inverse of PEMDAS. We're working backwards. You add and subtract first, then you multiply and divide. Then you do exponents, then you do parentheses. So working backwards. So let's do this one. Negative 5x minus 4 equals 46. First, I have to move the constant. The constant is 4. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. This becomes 0. Negative 5x equals 50. The inverse of negative 5 times x is to divide both sides by negative 5. And x equals negative 10. Okay, box that one because it's beautiful. And on the other side, rewrite the problem. Negative 5x minus 4 equals 46. Substitute 10 for the x, so negative 5. Parentheses to show I'm multiplying, times negative 10. Minus 4 equals 46. Negative times negative is positive 50. Minus 4 is 46. And 46 equals 40. Silly Bono. 46 equals 46. It checks. Now, at any point, if you want to use your calculator, do so. Use your tools. For this one, x divided by 2 minus 4 equals negative 10. The constant first, so add 4 to both sides. Minus 4 plus 4 is 0. X divided by 2 equals negative 10 plus 4. The signs are different. You subtract and get 6. 10 is larger than 4. 10 is negative 6. The inverse of divide by 2 is to multiply by 2. So I multiply by 2 on both sides. When it's next to the variable, I don't have to put parentheses. But when it's next to another number, I need to use parentheses to show that I'm multiplying. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. Isolated variable equals negative times positive, negative. 6 times 2 is 12. Put a box around it because it's a gift. X divided by 2 minus 4 equals negative 10. Substitute negative 12 for x. Doesn't need parentheses because I'm not multiplying, I am dividing. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6 minus 4, negative 10. Keep, change, equals negative 10. Negative 6 plus negative 4 is negative 10. That equals negative 10, and that checks. Yay! So, your homework for tonight, checkpoint 2. Yay, homework. We will go over this tomorrow. Take care.